What is going on, YouTube people? Neo Cards and Comics here for the Sunday weekly recap of everything moving and shaking in the sports card world. Today, something a little different to lead off. I was curious, what was going on 1 year ago today? What was going on last holiday season? And by the way, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Whatever it is that you celebrate come late December, mid-December, whatever it is. Hope you're having a great one. But what was going on in the sports card world 1 year ago today? So I went back and I looked at, what videos I posted around this time. Obviously, a lot of end of the year recap stuff, and I have some more of that stuff coming. But the two funniest things in a couple different regards. The big news was 1 year ago, PSA regular service came back. This is when they were running the limited events and everything, and it was initially just through group submitters, and then they opened it up beyond that. 1 year ago today, PSA regular service came back at $100 a card. Think how far we have come in just a year. $100 a card regular service just opened back up again. We did a live stream on Friday night. Shout out to Dakota, Filmington, and Bobbles popped on in the wee hours of that. And we were just kind of like talking about stuff throughout the year. And when you really think back, the beginning of this year feels like a millennia ago. The Atlanta Card Show feels like forever ago. Don't forget, and I'll talk about this in like a yearly recap video. Earlier this year is when all the Marvel card PMG craziness happened. That feels like it happened 5 freaking years ago. That was 11 months ago. That was January and February of this year when all that happened. PSA was just opening up grading services again a year ago. And now look, we're at $15 a card economy. What are we going to be at next year when we get back around to this point for grading? I have no idea, but it was an interesting little glimpse back. I may do this more often. It was just really crazy to go back and look. The other thing, which we'll talk about this, let me switch over to some market movers here. Really, before we dive in, because I'm going to get into some charts here. Really a pretty quiet week in the news front. It's basically just been Topps throwing product at us. Topps is like, hey, want some more boxes to buy? Here's triple threads, here's black, here's first edition Bowman, here's Bowman Chrome, here's this, here's that, here's Chrome Update with bad quality control, here's Topps Holiday. They're just throwing stuff at us left and right. Hello, wallet fatigue, guys. Calm down. Spread it out a little bit. Whew, let us breathe. The other big thing, we'll just dive straight into the market movers from here. Last year at this time was the Mac Jones score craziness. December of last year, this actually happened a little bit before exactly 1 year ago, but I was talking about it in the weekly sports card market update from a year ago. Mac Jones score. I'm sorry, Donruss base PSA 10s. We're going for, they started very quickly at $1,300 to $1,400 and then dropped down to about $500 or $600 when I talked about it in the weekly sports card market update, and actually did a standalone video separate to it. But this card, base Donruss Mac Jones, was going for $500 to $600 a year ago because it had just came out. I remember making a video saying, are we stupid? Have you guys and girls learned nothing? Today, this card sells for $30. Imagine if you bought this at $1,300, hell, even $500 to $600, one of those first ones out of the gate, and it's a $30 card now. Yes, Mac Jones has played terrible. This card was going to come down regardless, even if he played well. For example, before the season even started, this was going for $100. Right as the season started, this was about $100 to $120 card, and now it's down to $30 because he's had a pretty bad season. Just wild that we don't learn our lessons from stuff like this, and it keeps happening over and over and over again. To be fair, maybe we are smartening up a little bit. We talked a lot about Julio Rodriguez on the live stream. His base Topps Update PSA 10 came out of the gates at like 150, which really isn't like that crazy when you think about how nutso this is. And it's already settled into like 70 or $80. So the fact that come out of the gates at like $150 is actually like maybe people actually did get a little bit smarter and we're not as dumb as we all think that we all are. But just wild stuff. 1 year ago, it was $100 to grade a card at PSA, and Mac Jones base Donruss was selling for $600 to $1,000, depending on exactly when we're talking in the month of December last year. Wild stuff. While we're here, let's just keep talking about football in the old market movers. Speaking of wild times, the top of the price movement chart for quarterbacks, percentage-wise, oh man, you gotta love it. Baker Mayfield, Baker Mayfield, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold are your top four. Is it 2019 again? What the hell is happening? Am I in a time machine? PSA grading's $15, and Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold are at the top of the percentage gain charts. Not dollars gain, percentage change, but still. Could someone wake me up? Did like the ghost of Christmas past take me back to the hobby land of 2020? The fall or winter of 2020? Like, you can't make this stuff up. Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold at the top of charts and graphs. If that's not enough for you, the hottest name in the hobby, wait for it, Brock Purdy, taking the football card market by storm. His stuff is up 121%, 62%, 561%, 536%. He does not have a lot of cards out there. He has some black, he has some prestige, he has some elite, some really random things, but whatever has his name on it is going absolutely crazy. Now listen, the Niners are a fantastic team. It's a fun little story, but I do not think Brock Purdy is the future of the NFL. That might be a hot take. Probably not. But once again, Brock Purdy, 1 year from now, when I do this again, am I going to look back and be like, hey guys and girls, remember Brock Purdy? How we were all chasing him, kind of like I was earlier with the whole Mac Jones based on Russ PSA 10 thing. Wild stuff. Wild stuff. Just wanted to circle back in on this because people were very surprised by this. In my biggest losses video, I had mentioned that I traded for the Jim Brown SGC3 at the National at $1,500, and it actually came down quite a bit. People were kind of surprised about the fact that, you know, I thought vintage never goes down, it only goes up. It's the safest thing in the world. So I was curious. So I just kind of pulled a bunch of Jim Brown stuff of other grades, and including the SGC3, just to kind of see how those have been performing. And I just went with whatever had fairly recent sales. So that's my logic for what grades that I picked. But that gave us a PSA 4 and SGC3 and a PSA 7. And I ran this back to the beginning of June. I think this was, or end of June. I'm sorry. Like June 20th is when this goes back to. It was 180 days. Went back 180 days. In that time, the PSA 4 is down 15%. It was at 2K. It's at 1,700. The SGC3 was at 1,500. It's down to 950. And a PSA 7 was 8K back then. It's down to 7,500. So that one's actually held up the best. Not surprising, given that those sell way less frequently, way more rare, higher grade. Jim Browns don't come on the market quite as often. People are going to pay a premium for those. But you can see even the great vintage stuff still comes down in price. Nothing is immune to the market downturn that we have saw. The SGC3, unfortunately, seems to have been gotten hit a little bit harder. So unlucky me on that one. I don't know why that one's down 37% and some of the other ones are not down quite as much. But one thing to keep in mind, in this lower grade stuff, the prices do swing a little bit more depending on how good or bad the card looks, because presentation can vary greatly on the lower grade vintage stuff. Centering a card that's very well centered or has really good color may outsell something that is very off-centered or has rough shape or bad color or fading or whatever, depending on the situation. So just kind of wanted to pull that up and look at it because a lot of people were like, wow, I didn't realize that card had kind of gone down. Yeah, vintage has gone down too. Talk about some more of that in a second. Let's switch over to basketball just really quickly. Trae Young has just been brutalized. This one just really went off a cliff. This is his Contenders rookie auto ticket. PSA 10, pop 42. This has been a $2,500 card. We have multiple sales here. And then, whoop, right off the old cliff, which was kind of crazy because one sold on 12/13 for $2,500. And the next day, one sold for $1,500, a 40% drop. So, boy, you don't feel real great about yourself if you bought this on the 13th for 2,500 and then literally the next day it sells for 1,500. Rough stuff there. Next up in the basketball world, we've been talking about him week after week now for a while. Zion stuff continues to slowly tick up. He's playing fantastic. The Pelicans are playing fantastic. I believe at time of recording, last I had heard, I didn't pull up standings and look, but they were basically first place in the West or right there, battling with it with their little feud with the Suns this week. He had the windmill slam, all that. They're looking great. Absolutely great. That's with Ingram in and out of the lineup with his injuries. But just as a team, they're playing fantastic. I've said this every week. Zion, the question has never been about the talent. It's been about the health. And if he continues to stay healthy and continue to play well, his stuff may continue to keep creeping up. This is going back to the end of November, so basically about 30 days. His PSA 10 is up 36%, and his PSA 9 is up 20%. And just even over, if I just pull this back to the last 14, you see most of that's happened there. 29% increase over the last 14 on the PSA 10 and a 25% increase on the PSA 9. And it just keeps slowly ticking up. If I even pull back to 7 days on the PSA 10, up 10%, the PSA 9 up 14%. All this can change in a second if he turns something, twists something, whatever. That could be anybody. But as of right now, Zion continues to just go beast mode on people. He's actually, I'm a little disappointed. He's coming to Cleveland, but it's the MLK Day game, and it's the afternoon game. And it's not so much that I can't get up there because work, but day games in Cleveland are a pain in the butt for parking. It's a nightmare to park for a Cavs game on a weekday day game because everyone's taking up spots for work. So I thought about going because I've never seen Zion play in person, but that's a little bit inhibitive. So I'm going to think about it. Maybe I'll end up still sneaking in for that game. I'll see what's going on. But parking's always a nightmare for those day games downtown. Let's switch over to baseball. Baseball, the offseason market's really heated up. People are switching teams left and right. Huge contracts flowing around. And just digging into the numbers this week, one player really stood out that is just up across the board, and it's Vlad. My boy, Mad Vlad. I've always been a big fan of Vlad. I don't really have much in the way of his cards anymore. I have an X-Fractor. X-Fractor PSA 10, I think, is the last card I have of his. But his Prism Refractor, what am I looking at here? 30 days. Over the last 30 days, his PSA 10 Prism Refractor is up 35%. His base refractor is up 25%. And his rookie auto is up almost 40%. So across the board, we're seeing some movement on Vlad stuff. In addition to that, and this, a lot of people, Teapot did a video saying is now the time to go buy baseball. And I think the time may have already passed for some of these guys. Do you really want to be buying on the upswing on Vlad? I don't know. Fernando Tatis, the much maligned, much talked about. I don't know that I would touch his stuff, but his stuff is creeping up as well. This is his first Bowman Autos. PSA 10 is up 20%. Same card in a PSA 9 is up 60%. And a BGS 9.5 is up 10%. You can kind of see these little hooks heading up here as we head into the week of Christmas during this hot stove season where everyone's kind of like, oh, wait, yeah, baseball still exists as all these guys are signing massive free agent contracts. So that was intriguing to me. On the flip side, and these aren't cards we typically talk about on the channel, but I just noticed them on the downswing. A lot of all-time greats trending down over the last 60 days here we're looking at. This is Ryan Sandberg, 83 Topps PSA 10 is down 20%. The 93 Topps Jeter, the gold version, is down almost 16%. And the Clemens 84 Fleer is down almost 17%, 16.5%. So it's interesting to see some of the modern guys creeping up and some of these older, more, whatever you want to call it. I don't want to call it vintage. It's like this weird in-between land of the 80s where it's not really vintage. I guess it's not even junk wax. I don't know what you want to call it. But that stuff is pulling down a little bit. Now, I didn't touch on it at the beginning, but I probably should have. This week also was the ending of the PWCC Premier auctions. They were messy, to say the least. A bunch of people have already done some content around it. There was one particular sale that I did want to talk about. We'll talk about that next. But just generally speaking, the PWCC premiere was ugly. A lot of high-end stuff got absolutely hammered. We don't talk about the ultra high-end around here a ton. Every once in a while, if something crazy happens, we will. Because it's mostly cards I can't afford. I don't think most of my audience can afford it. No offense to you guys and girls. But needless to say, the high-end market continues to take a beating across the board. And a lot of this is that this would be things that have trended down over time, but they just haven't come to market in months. So it feels like a bigger drop because the last one that sold was 6 or 8 months ago or whatever. But the one sale that I really wanted to talk about was, and I saw Sports Card Radio mention this in their video, the 93 SP Foil Jeter. And it isn't so much about the price swings or dips or whatever on this particular card. It's the price gap. And, I ranted about this in a video earlier this week with the whole state of grading and everything. The PSA 10 version of this card went for $205,000. And I don't follow the market on this card very much. I don't know if that's good or bad price, if it's fair, if it's bad, if it's ugly, if it's fantastic. Don't know. Just went for $200,000. A BGS 9.5 with pretty decent subgrades went for $6,000. Now, tinfoil hat, they were saying, some people were saying that maybe this card was trimmed. I don't know anything about that. That's allegedly, who knows? But regardless, what a price gap on 2 cards from a PSA 10 to a BGS 9.5. If you want the best deals right now for a card for your collection, start searching auctions for BGS 9.5s. They, across the board, are going way too cheap. I posted about it earlier this week. The Tatum Green Prism in basketball, the color match. Gorgeous card. PSA 10 went for just under $3K. It's about where that card's been selling for. BGS 9.5, they sold back-to-back, side-by-side. Same seller. They ended within minutes of each other. The BGS 9.5 with very good subgrades. It was a Min Gem Plus, a True Gem Plus. 4 9.5s and a 10 for the subgrades. Great subgrades. Went for just under $1,600. Huge. You're talking almost a 50% discount there on the secondary market. So if you're in buying mode as we head into the new year, and I think a lot of people are potentially saying, 2023 might be a good time to pick some things up that you've been looking at. Look at Beckett Slabs. Their stuff is really underperforming compared to PSA specifically, but even some of the other grading companies. So you can get some really good deals on cards that you might really want. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind when you're kind of searching for this stuff. If the card looks good in the slab and it's something that you truly want, might want to look at the BGS 9.5s or even a BGS 9 or 8 or whatever, depending on the card. So short and sweet this week. Everyone's super busy with the holidays. So we'll just go ahead and wrap it up there. It was a very quiet week on the news front for the most part. So not a lot to cover there. This upcoming week for content, probably still some more, mixing in some current today thoughts along with revisiting some stuff throughout the year. I did the biggest losses video last week. I'll be doing a biggest wins video this upcoming week or maybe next week. It's recorded. I'm just not sure when it's going to post. I have a hobby goals from 2022 video that'll be up at some point in time. Later this week, for sure, I should have my boxes Wednesday. I have Topps Update hobby boxes coming. I have 3 of them. I'm going to open 1 because I just want to see what the quality control looks like. I want to see it in hand for myself. So if that shows up like it's supposed to on Wednesday, I'll rip that and post it Thursday morning. So that'll be Thursday's video. So beyond that, not sure what's going to pop out when, but that's a little bit of a kind of sneak ahead or a look ahead for upcoming content this week. The other thing I should note, and I should have mentioned this at the beginning, the weekly market update this week and next week, I might move to Monday because next Sunday is Christmas Day. So, and then the Sunday after that is New Year's Day, and I'll actually be out of town for New Year's. So we'll see. I don't know yet. But that's all I have for you guys and girls. We will catch you on the next one. Peace.